for a few to join us. I'll make a couple of quick announcements. I have like 3 monitors going here, so now I'm not even sure if I'm sharing the right screen. Lori, can you confirm if the city to city is up right now? Are you seeing the city to city screen?
I see the economic forecast, Tara. We were seeing city to city on the last one.
Okay, perfect. Let me move that back then. It's for school I needed too many monitors. There we go. Okay. So again, just while we're waiting, I wanted to mention something that we're really excited about bringing to our community. We have started a city to city tour. This year, it will be October 2nd through the 5th. We're gonna, probably always target a fall event, but essentially, with economic development being kind of on the forefront for our cities and certainly a chamber initiative as well, seeing in what ways we can play a role in that. We've targeted cities that we may aspire towards. And so this particular trip will be in Gilbert, Arizona. And Gilbert was once known as the hay capital of the world. So not different than our agricultural sort of center that we have here. And now they've really just, kind of boomed into quite a thriving metropolitan area off of Phoenix. And, that is with, lots of restaurants. They have a heritage district. They've created kind of a maker space, paseo, if you will, indoor, outdoor kind of a feel. So, there's a lot of stakeholders and, our public officials that have keen interest in developing some of our cores in a similar manner. So we feel this is a great kickoff. Meredith and Neal at Puyallup, Economic Development joined this effort, as well as Justin Jones to kind of help land on a city and start with some of the collaborating on that. So essentially, we're looking for about 25 people to join us. And, it starts with a Sunday evening dinner all together. The Gilbert, Arizona Chamber, which wins a lot of chamber awards, they're doing a lot of great work, will be hosting us and facilitating the bus tour on that Monday, where we'll visit, their economic development sort of core and sort of tell their story. We'll have a lot of the counterparts to their cities joining us to our counterparts here for some lunches. We'll do walking tours, bus tours. We'll end up at the college on the second day. We'll have a healthcare leadership and innovation panel. And really, there's a lot of ways we can go with it. So sort of dependent on who does join us, we'll be able to craft a little bit more of what you want to hear in the way of this kind of trip and what you want to get out of it. I've done these trips with the Tacoma Chamber, and certainly for me, the added value was the 20 to 25 people that I was able to now commensurate and do still here in my professional life. So I'm really excited about it. We've got about 10 people signed up so far, and have extended our early bird sort of reservations until July 1st. So this link is on our website, and I'm sure Lori can kind of add a sheet as well, or we could follow up with a PDF on it. But I wanted to just mention the city to city again as another opportunity coming your way. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started with our guest today. I will ask Lori, sorry if you don't mind, Lori, to share our Combating Crime Symposium PDF. I've been hosting 12 at 12 CEO chats, so that's 12 stakeholders coming to meet with us at lunch once a month. My goal was, to kind of interview 100 of our members and just sort of learn and understand what pains them at night, what keeps them up at night, what are the kinds of things they're grappling with. I love that the 12 individuals at the table are often problem solving for one another, but at the very least, as a chamber, we're trying to gather great data and just want to really understand where the chamber can position themselves to convene with others to kind of address some of these issues. And so time and time, crime keeps coming up, of course. We're all very aware of sort of, at a national level, what happened a couple of years ago, and maybe some of the overcorrection measures to change some of that. We're so, proud and happy with our Puyallup and Sumner Police Department, and that they haven't, lost officers, and there has been such a great support, where we know that hasn't been the case across the country. But there are some alarming statistics, and data doesn't lie. And when you do sort of handcuff our police the way that that nationally has, and particularly Washington State has, the trend lines for crime have just astronomically trended upwards, and it's at an alarming rate. It's one of those things that's going to probably take a bit to overcorrect it. And so as a chamber, we have partnered with the Washington State Retail Association to tap into a lot of their resources of what they're providing retailers to maybe do all that they can to not make themselves a target. And if they are a target, what can they do about it? We are, partnering with our police departments to understand in what ways we can be supportive. We also have, Council Member Zeiger, who's got the Pierce County statistics again to look at. So as we're advocating to have some of these bills, readdressed in a, next year's session, or right now, our cry of advocacy is to see if Governor Inslee will consider a special session now to address these issues sooner rather than later. We've had someone creating videos for us that tell the victim stories. We're creating this symposium on Monday, June 27th, which is a bit of a town hall, but that's where we will have Representative Kelly Chambers talking about how we got here, Councilmember Zeiger with statistics, Mark Johnson with the Washington Retail Association, and Robert Nelson, who's the president of the Washington State Organized Retail Crime, along with our police department, that will be here to kind of talk about where our community is with all of this. And then we'll have folks like the Veteran Security Operations and another gentleman that does some de-escalation kind of training, but VSO does active shooter training. This is all kind of sounds like crazy talk that, we're trying to arm our employees and keep them safe. But, even our chamber is going through active shooter training. So unfortunately, that's a little bit of what we're at right now. And that's what we're grappling with. Our board directors had our board meeting 2 weeks ago inside the Puyallup Police Department. We also hosted a wake up at the Puyallup Police Department. So in every way, we are trying to show our support, learn in what ways we can be helpful to the community. And so in continuing that effort, we have Captain Massey here today, who provided an update kind of from his perspective. And I shouldn't say his perspective. He is the speaking person, the spokesperson today for the Puyallup Police Department. So we've invited him to share some of the information he shared with our board. So welcome today, everyone. And Captain Massey, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Tara. That was great. I think you did about just everything, touched on everything I was going to talk about. So that's awesome. I don't have a formal presentation, and I guess in the future, if we need to come up with something, we can do that. But I first want to say thank you to everybody that's here. This is an awesome thing that's going on. And like I spoke about last time, it's sometimes as cops and we're out on the street doing our job, we don't realize that there's this kind of support that's actually going on behind the scenes for us. And so that is a very awesome thing. And I applaud everyone that is here and the efforts. The last time that we had this meeting and afterwards, I brought it back to some of just the lowest level cops, the newer cops, and described the efforts. Very much appreciative. And again, don't know everything that's going on. We talked about last time, even the cops that we have that are laterals that are from other agencies, not just in the state of Washington, but even other states that are here in the city of Puyallup, that citizens and that wave with all five fingers at them, and it causes shock and awe that we have that kind of support from the citizens as well. Not to mention the businesses and in the city council. So again, thank you. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to see the teeth and traction that this gets and the success stories that we have later with this. So one of the things that we talked about, I guess in the last couple of meetings, was just the knowledge and understanding of where we're at as far as I'll speak for the Puyallup Police Department and not necessarily the Sumner, but I think we're kind of parallel and in line. And that's the staffing necessarily hasn't affected the city of Puyallup like it has with other police agencies across the state. There are numerous agencies that are down in large size. Pierce County, Seattle, people know the stories, and the numbers are just staggering of how many people they are down, bodies needing to fill, and what that does for the level of service and the quality service that you get from a police department that's that has that. And so very blessed as a police agency with the city of Puyallup to almost be fully staffed even today in what that looks like. I say that and I again thank you for the support for our council and our businesses and our citizens for all of that, but also just the education piece of what that looks like even for the calls for service. And I know it can be frustrating when, you know, Council Member King gave us an example about his shed being broken into twice, 2 nights in a row. And, you know, while we would love to be able to provide a static type of police service where we're just there waiting, when it comes for calls for service, where if I have 6 cops on the road and a sergeant at one time, a pretty bad traffic accident and a domestic violence call that pops off at the same time, and that takes a majority of my officers off the street, and so very difficult even in a 14 square mile populace to be everywhere at once. We do a pretty good job of driving through, being proactive, being seen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the bad guy doesn't duck his head, wait for us to drive by and pop back up, and there he is again. And so the cat and mouse game can be very difficult and very frustrating, even for citizens and business owners that are being affected by crime from the populace. I will also say that while we're in the 40,000 as far as the population of the city goes, every single day here in the city of Puyallup, we're up into the 100,000s just because of business, right? The city mall, the businesses, and the people that come through the city. And some of those criminals wake up every day, just like we do for jobs. That's their job, unfortunately, is to go out and scout for crime and commit crime and decide what they're going to do in the wee hours of the morning. And so I appreciate the support and the understanding. And these guys are out there no matter what the legislation has done, COVID has done, the attitude of defunding has done. We make sure that we're out there every single day trying to get through this. I will tell you that some of the challenges that we've faced that most people know about is, yes, it started with COVID, and COVID shut down jails. COVID caused booking restrictions. COVID caused issues with just being in contact with each other. It caused us to not be able to book a lot of the same people and have to actually let some people out of the jail that maybe shouldn't have been released out of the jail. And there's different views on that. But it certainly caused some challenges. Our House bills and our legislation, once those came out, that didn't help matters as well. And I think those 2 or 3 things combined have given us some real challenges in regards to the attitude and the I call it the retraining that these criminals are going to need if and when we are successful in pushing this pendulum the other way. Right now we have every single day already this morning people fleeing from the police. I know some business owners have seen it. I know some citizens have seen it, where we literally have to turn our lights on and they decide not to stop, and we have to let them go. And that's just an example of some of the training and mindset that these criminals have. And when some do stop or some are caught, it's even knowing what the jail booking restrictions are on us right now. And, just hand me my ticket. I got someplace to be. And it's very frustrating. But I think it's going to, the same time that it's taken for them to have this attitude, the attitude adjustment, when we are able to actually start doing some things maybe the way they were before, and some of the booking restrictions being lifted, it's certainly going to be a challenge for us as far as that goes. I will also say the, city of Puyallup gets called a property crime or a property crime city, where we don't necessarily are, or we're very fortunate. And I think it's the citizen support, and business and council support that we have, and the number of cops that we have on the street, and aggressive that we can be for, I call it in your face crime. And there are cities across the nation where whether it's gang activity or shootings or things that are in your face, things that we know when we walk down the street that startle us, might even scare us, might cause us to go a different direction. And I think we're fortunate to keep that kind of criminal activity at bay here in the city of Puyallup. But we're definitely a property crime. And people come here for the shoppers. We try to educate as best as we can not to leave your laptops on the front seat, your purse on the front seat when you go into the store, but there's just plenty of target for opportunity. And I think when we had a decision by the courts for the case law of State v. Blake, where we started to see narcotics and the possession of narcotics become an issue, and almost feel down the path of being legalized. And for anybody that is out there that doesn't believe or have the education to believe that narcotics and property crime go hand in hand, I would love to sit down with that person or that group of people and have a chat, put on some education. And so I think when we're not able to book people that possess a certain amount of narcotics, while I understand about referrals for treatment and I believe in treatment, it's just a double-edged sword on again, people being trained in the mindset of, it's okay for me to have this, give me my ticket and I'll walk off. And there's definitely people that are stealing for drugs, trade for drugs, property crime for drugs, that kind of thing. So in all of our efforts and for potential changes, I think that is obviously one of the pieces to look at as well. So Tara, I don't know how much time I have. I feel like I could talk for hours. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, unless there's any more specific questions.
Yeah, I'm sure we may have some questions of the group. I know that, statistically, I will show some statistics. A lot of this came from Pierce County, and I thank Zeiger for that information, County Councilman Zeiger. But I was curious if I know this is Pierce. This is for commercial business burglaries. There's stolen vehicles, and again, the data doesn't lie, and it matches up perfectly with when we changed some of the ways that police are able to pursue. And I was just curious in general if Puyallup is following a similar trend line. I know this is Pierce County at large. I know Tacoma itself, when you look at national statistics, we're number 2 for retail crime at $2.8 billion last year. We've actually landed on quite a few notorious lists, the kind of lists you don't want to land on, which is very alarming. But yeah, I guess my first question would just have to do with are you seeing the same thing specifically in Puyallup?
Yeah, we're right in line with those numbers, Tara.
Did we lose you? We lost him? Oh,
His call must have dropped. Darn it.
hi, this is Tara.
Hi, Tara. This is Captain Massey.
Hi, did we lose you?
My computer has completely just turned off and says working on updates, 30% complete.
Okay, well, they can all hear you and they're laughing. We'll let you log back on when you can, and we'll move to some of the updates from our other group. But gosh, we so appreciate you doing this. I guess I wanted to clarify too. I know I've asked you to speak a number of times, so that you don't feel you're repeating yourself. This, for the most part, was a new group. This is our Government Affairs Council. So the information you gave is very valuable. I know we like to hear more of what's happening in our own backyard. So thank you so much. We'll see you. We'll see you when you can log back on.
And real quick, I just wanted to answer your question. Yes, we're seeing the same trends. It's a county issue overall, not necessarily just specific to the cities.
Okay. Well,
all right, I'll see you in a minute.
Yep, sounds great. Thank you. All right, well, we all heard that, I assume. Dan, you mentioned you can't hear me very well. Am I okay now, or just not really, huh? Okay, well, I will try to mess around with a few things, but I'll just stop talking. That'll help.
Well, at least for me, you've been kind of cutting in and out. I waited until Greg started speaking to make sure it wasn't on my end. I heard Greg fine until he bailed on us, but
okay. Well, let me, why don't I go ahead and turn it over to, is County Councilman Zeiger still on? He's sort of who I've been turning to for these statistics that, keep changing month to month. So why don't we touch base with council? Certainly anything you can add to this topic, but also in general, how things are going at the county level.
And I'm about to switch over from my phone to my laptop, so bear with me here. All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Set up this one here. Okay. All right, so, well, I appreciated Captain Massey's briefing there, and we've got some good things going on here at the county. We're about to approve the contract that was agreed to by the Sheriff's Deputies Guild. And that will be, I think, will make a significant difference in allowing our Sheriff's Department to recruit and retain personnel. So we're around 50 vacancies, kind of give or take, just depending on the day or the week. But I hope we can stop the bleed and begin to turn that around. So the our county council has called for a special session of the legislature. We've asked the governor to do that. I don't believe we've received any kind of response to that, but I appreciate the chamber's willingness to add to that. And Snohomish County has issued a similar call. I hope that more and more cities will start to do that as well. The police pursuit bill is the issue there. We need to urgently see that fixed, and we're seeing the impact of that, every day with our sheriff's department. I got to go on a ride along with the sheriff's sergeant recently and got to learn more about kind of the things that they're seeing on a daily basis as a result of that legislation that passed last year and the failure of the legislature this year to fix that legislation. So that's what I've got on the public safety stuff.
Great. Well, thank you very much for those updates and all that you're doing. We look forward to partnering with you on this Combating Crime Consortium coming up June 27th. How about at our state level? We have Representative Jacobsen on the line. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Tara. I got every sort of internet problems in addition to plumbing problems. So I'm out in my car and right now just working on legislation for next time, and obviously would love a special session to fix the pursuit problem, which we were unable to fix last session. So thank you.
I see Captain Massey has joined us. all updated and refreshed and ready to go.
So annoying.
You know, again, this is a unique group to the ones you've presented to before. And my question, I guess, would be, I'm assuming we all are aware of what the pursuit laws look like right now, but maybe that's a false assumption on my behalf. Could you maybe shed a little bit of light of truly what that does look like for you right now when referring to that?
So I'll speak a little bit on this pursuits then, Tara. And so pursuits are a very dangerous thing to do. And I am completely and 100% aware of that. And, you know, while they're necessary, there definitely needs to be some good training, some discretion, and all the pieces that need to be in place to do that. And I 100% agree that there needs to be a good reason when we're driving 100 miles an hour in pursuit of someone, and there are dangers that come with that to citizens in and around us. And I preface that to say, you know, there's a lot of unfortunate circumstances that have come in the past when it comes to pursuits. But I think a policy that or a law that comes out that also limits us the way that it does right now is a dangerous thing, and again with the mindsets of the criminals. And right now we are at a point where we're talking about violent crimes that have occurred and what we're able to pursue for. There are some pieces to the law that I agree with, getting the sergeant's approval, and I think part of the problem is we don't always know all the pieces to what has occurred or what crime has occurred that would allow us to pursue the way the law is written right now. And so while some may say, well, if my tabs are expired and the cops try to stop me and I leave the scene or don't stop for the police officer, is that now warranted for a pursuit? And in the past, maybe it was. It's still officer and supervisor discretion. And so I don't necessarily agree with that, even though later on down the road, when that pursuit stopped and it was a guy that was wanted for murder, or he had a carload of drugs or whatever, you don't get to know those things at the time when you do your pursuit. So I think there is need for discretion and limitations on the pursuit. I just think that that needs to still be left up to the officers and not necessarily having to have 100% all knowledge, probable cause of what went on before we even start that pursuit, if that kind of makes sense to everybody in the forum.
Thank you for some of the insight on that. Are there any other questions from the group? Sarah?
Well, so I'm imagining you don't recommend a full citizens brigade, but what do we do? If somebody attacks me in my home, do I shoot them? Do I shoot people, you know, breaking into my property? How do I handle this? How do we handle this as a society?
Sarah, I don't know that I am any position or any officer is in any position to give you, I'll say, legal advice when it comes to a question like that. Certainly you have the right to protect yourself and your property as far as the law goes. You know, I think even when I was growing up and even in the past, there was, this question has always been a question that we've all asked, I can think of, does he have to be in the doorway? Does he have to be in the house? Does he have to be facing me? All those kinds of questions were even topics of discussion, like I said, when I was growing up as a kid before reform and the way we are now. So I'm just going to leave it as this, Sarah. You have the right to protect yourself, your family, your property, and one of the things that's looked at is the amount of force, even as a citizen, that's used, just like officers. That's probably as far as I'm going to go down that road, Sarah, honestly.
That's a fine response. Any other questions? So Senator Gildon, did you have anything also to add and what you've been working on and or pertaining to this subject or otherwise?
Yeah, I appreciate what he was saying about, sometimes officers need that discretion because that one size fits all policy may sound good, but the pursuit conditions on I-5 at 5 p.m. are much different than the pursuit conditions at 3 a.m. Right. And I think the officers and their supervisors should be allowed that amount of discretion. That particular bill, of all of the police reform bills, there were 3 of them that we really had issue with that were causing problems. And we were able to largely fix 2 of them. The vehicular pursuit bill was the one that we were not able to get across the finish line. Even though that bill did pass, just so everybody knows, that bill did pass the Senate. It did pass the House. However, the House added an amendment to it. And so it had to come back to the Senate for what's called a concurrence vote. And normally concurrence votes, you put the bill up, 30 seconds later, everybody's voted for it and you're done, right? So concurrence is one of the easiest things that we do. But for whatever reason, that bill never got brought up for that final concurrence bill. There were 3 separate attempts that day to bring that bill up and each one of them were denied. But it's certainly something that, as everybody knows, it's just vitally important for law enforcement to be able to enforce the law. So we've got to act on it. So that's a little bit of context there for you.
I always love your context. Break it down. These things don't just magically happen in the back and forth and the frustration, I'm sure at times. It is nice when you shed that light so we have a great understanding and even can understand who some of these legislators are that are, I guess, ruling one way or another is helpful information too. I know you've provided some of those insights before. All right, well, any other questions for Captain Massey on this topic? I'd be curious just in general, I don't know, Ryan, this may be completely putting you on the spot, but with Sumner Police in general, just, how has staffing looked for that and support and crime, anything you can add kind of under the umbrella that Captain Massey just did for Puyallup would be helpful insight. I don't know that I have heard a whole lot and intend to reach out to them as well to learn more.
Thank you, Tara. This is Ryan Windish, the city of Sumner. And I'm not in the police department, but I'll tell you what, I admire and respect all that you do in the line of fire and what you do, because I could never be a cop, but I have an enormous amount of respect for police officers and what they do. We are down 3 officers in terms of openings for positions, a lateral position, and a couple entry-level positions, which of course is not too surprising. We recently adopted and are using body cameras for the police officers. They've done some informational and educational videos for council and the community. It's an amazing resource, really. The officers at first were, as you can imagine, a little bit skeptical, but after they've been using them. They find them to be incredibly valuable because you get that in the moment, every detail of the incident, and things that as a human being you're not going to necessarily remember. It comes up on film. So it's been really a positive step forward. I also want to say somehow miraculously we ended up with our new Deputy Chief, Andy Mccurdy, who came to Sumner last year from Covington. And his addition to our department has been fantastic. I know he's went to the Leadership Institute, and he was part of making the Run for Your Life event happen, but he's been doing great things in the department. Also kind of on the property protection front, a little over a year and a half ago, the city did adopt an allowance for the use of electric fences for protection of properties. And I know that got in front of Tacoma. I think they postponed their decision on that. But, you know, when you're faced with what do you do, it's pretty tough to say, well, you know, this electric fence thing doesn't look like the right solution, but they are safe. They operate in conjunction with kind of a security system. And I would imagine, and I know they're popular, they're around a lot of different RV storage, equipment storage places in that regard. So in our, and I know like everywhere else, property crime is up in Sumner as well, but I can't tell you all the specifics, but we're struggling with that. And you've probably seen some coverage we've had on graffiti. Graffiti in our town was up considerably through the winter. Dropped off a little bit, and then somebody got a spray can a couple weekends ago because I saw a ton of it around town. But so the things that we continue to grapple with, low-level malicious type stuff like graffiti, as well as property crime.
Gosh, I don't feel bad putting you on the spot. That was pretty gosh darn good. I know and do know that you are the type of person who is very in the know in your department. So you all work closely together. So thank you. That's a great update. Is any questions for Ryan Windish? I see Kevin has a question here. I don't know, that's probably aimed towards Captain Massey regarding, what to do with your registration in your car.
Yeah, Tara, there was Kevin, I 100% agree with that, to include the insurance. And so, you know, communication is key. I mean, if a police officer is pulling you over, you know, just stand by, hold on a second, you know, if you want to put your hands on the steering wheel, and just simply communication. Hey, officer, you know, everything is on my phone. You know, my phone's sitting right here. I'll show you everything. None of us have any issues with that. None of my officers have any issues with that. There was a time, and it still happens, when you're absolutely right. The registration, the insurance was stolen. There's your address. I went straight from your vehicle, wherever it was parked, whether it was the movie theater or not, to your house. There was even garage door openers that were being taken off the visor. And now I open up your garage door and help myself either that same day or later on. And so, yes, that's a long way of saying absolutely is a great idea.
Great question. Well, I'm going to let Representative Jacobsen talk about a bill she wrote to address this problem.
Yeah, this was from a constituent who had been, his car had been broken into, and he had the further, you know, ignominy of being robbed afterwards. So we got a bill through with some bipartisan help to be able to take off the addresses off your registration that you keep in your car. Now it's going to be a perforated address that you can pull off, and the registration will just have other information that's stored in your car. So maybe that will help a little bit. Did you guys hear that? Okay, sorry, in my car here again.
Tara, you're on mute.
I sure am. Thank you. Well, it's because my dog's making interesting sounds in the background. So thank you very much, Representative Jacobsen. Ryan, I guess, in Sumner, we'll kind of go back to the city. Just you spoke with your police hat on. Is there anything else to report from Sumner?
Yeah, not a whole lot, but I'll give a couple updates. So we are into our biennium budget process. And at the beginning of that, we had a couple of retreats, a retreat with our council, and they updated their strategic priorities, which center around community character, effective transportation, protection of natural resources, public safety, and excellence in government. And under that, there's a number of bullets and underneath each one of those strategies. And our budgeting process needs to reflect back to those strategies as we develop our budget. So that's been kicked off officially about a week ago. And so we are in the midst of putting all of that together and having discussions, interesting discussions about, a CPI that's at 9% or whatever, and what do we do there? So lots going on in that regard. I also, June 1st was also the deadline for applying for business grants that the city has available, both for in 3 different areas, kind of more of a general business, restaurants, and commissary kitchens. We ended up with 13 applications, and thank you, Tara and Meredith, for helping me out with the review of those. We'll be doing that next week and taking it back to our ARPA council committee and seeing who all is going to be able to receive those grants. So I'm pretty excited about that. The city has been moving towards implementing our Main Street design and vision strategy, which includes building wooners around Heritage Park in our downtown. We let the bid out for that, and it came in, no surprise. The lowest bid was $1 million over the engineer's estimate. So at about $6.5 million, I think, is the total cost of the project. But that'll be getting underway here in a couple of weeks, probably by mid-July. We have a couple of zoning code text amendments coming forward to council. One that would prohibit gas stations in our core downtown area, allow them at interchange commercial zones and industrial zones. That was partly a result of a 7-Eleven proposal at the corner of Valley and Main. We're also working on an annexation request for annexing a portion of the city that's just west of the old cannery. Includes Wayne's Roofing and some other buildings and properties in there, and Snyder Energy as well. So that will be moving forward to council. And finally, the Planning Commission, 2 more things. The Planning Commission is having a hearing on Thursday, looking at changing our regulations related to accessory dwelling units, implementing our housing action plan. That's one of the actions, was to hopefully make accessory dwelling units easier to do and less complicated. And finally, Dobbs Peterbilt opened in Sumner. So they are now selling Peterbilts. We're excited to have them, a 75,000 square foot facility that's also their corporate offices. And I'm just going to turn this over, if I could, Tara, to Lana. And if she's still here, she's not still here.
I'm here. Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
We've got some updates on events.
Yeah. Just real quick, this evening from 5 to 7 at City Hall, we have our open house in person. We're excited to talk about the projects pretty much that Ryan just went over, plus Sumner Police Department will be there with a presentation on body worn cameras and our new emergency alert, Sumner Alert. Plus, like I said, some projects that we have going on around. So we'll also have an online kind of version of that starting tomorrow on our Sumner Connects page. So we'd love to see any of you if you'd like to join us. And then the Sumner Main Street Association is having a block party on June 18th. It's food trucks and a band and a beer garden, so that should be fun. And then Cruise Sumner, which I know that those happen in Puyallup as well. That's going to be on June 25th. And we think we had about 1,500 cars here in May, so it was quite the event. So that's it for June. July is crazy, so I won't go there today. I'll wait that until next time.
I'm gonna add one more very important June date, and that is actually tomorrow, June 8th. We are doing the ribbon cutting for Top Down Brewery. So, hey, if you like a ribbon cutting and you like a little beer, I hope we can see you there. All right. Well, let's turn to your counterparts in Puyallup, Miss Meredith and Neal. Hello, hello.
Good morning. So let's see. So we have a downtown streetscape open house coming up on Wednesday, June 22nd. So the project team has narrowed down to 11 proposed projects. And so this is really the chance for the opportunity to provide feedback on it and help council start prioritizing those projects. So those projects include things like a street tree replacement plan, what the street furnishing standards will look like, such as new benches and light poles, downtown wayfinding plans and signage that can help residents and visitors find parking and attractions in the downtown area. And then a lot of the, sidewalks and intersection improvements. And, one of the question mark projects is maybe actually studying and looking at making Meridian a two-way again. So if anybody is interested, that's June 22nd. There's a 12 to 2 p.m. session and a 5 to 7 p.m. session at Pioneer Park Pavilion. We'll also have some opportunities for online feedback as well. But again, it's just super important because this is going to set the feel of what downtown looks and feels like for the next 20 years, probably. And each project represents millions of dollars of investment. So really hearing from the community, which is most important to them. Our Food Truck Friday program launched last week. It was pretty fun to see that even though it was a miserable, cold, rainy day, there was a line of people continuously through lunchtime. I think it really shows that there's a desire for more food choices in the downtown area. And so last week we had a vegan place and a food truck that specializes in Hawaiian and East Asian food. And so that'll be going every Friday during lunchtime at Pioneer Park through the end of September. Let's see, in other news, so our Puyallup AOB development, that's the city-owned parking lot behind the library and across from the police station. That is taking shape right now. They just submitted their preliminary site plan and the building design is in for design review. It's been really fun to kind of watch that process. It's a pretty cool looking building right now. And so I'm excited to see as that continues to move forward. Their new sales office is also open. So that's on the main floor of City Hall in downtown Puyallup, where the old Subway sandwich shop used to be. And so they have layouts and pricing as they're testing out the market for condo sales. On the development side, we've been seeing a lot of pre-application meetings right now that are for smaller multifamily projects like townhomes and triplexes, many of which are infill on larger lots. So it's been kind of interesting to see, we have a number of these larger developments like the AOB project and a number of others in the downtown core that are 4 or 5 story buildings. But it's been interesting to see sort of some of the higher density projects that are coming up that are just on, a place that has 1 home on it right now, or maybe 2 or 3 homes that somebody's combining to put a bunch of townhomes in. Let's see, I guess the last thing as we're talking about crime, one of the things that we've started up in partnership with the Puyallup Main Street Association is a graffiti cleanup project in downtown Puyallup, where they have a contract with somebody, and basically anytime somebody sees something, Main Street instantly sends them out to clean up the graffiti. Last year they ended up, I think they committed about $5,000 starting last September to test it out, and it cost them about $2,000. They've spent about $1,500 this year so far. But it's been great to help the businesses who might have property owners who aren't so great at cleaning up the graffiti. And we've definitely seen a lot of improvements in getting it cleaned up right away. So I know I sent something over to Tara to kind of suggest maybe looking at that, because I think it's been a really successful pilot for the downtown area, and I'd love to see that expanded and maybe the Chamber's partnership on that. And then let's see, the last one, Meeker Days is coming up June 17th to 19th. So it'll be the first sort of, back to normal Meeker Days in 4 years now. And so that'll include, 4 music stages. All of downtown will be closed off. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Cruise Puyallup will be there on Friday and Sunday with a car show. On Saturday, there's another car show. Lots of different things, huge numbers of food trucks. So come on out, check it out.
Nice job. Hey, what are the chances of expanding the food truck to Mondays? There's nothing open on Mondays for lunch.
Well, that's it's something that we've actually been talking about, is starting to look at maybe changing that, because especially in the post-pandemic time frame where a lot of people are still remote working 1 or 2 days a week, and Friday is definitely like the day when, at least in City Hall, there are only a few cars there. And so looking at maybe trying to add another day for food trucks for lunchtime.
I vote Monday.
Yeah.
Great. Well, hey, awesome job. You covered events, development, all kinds of good stuff. Any questions for anyone on the call here today? All right, well, I'll just make one quick little announcement. You may see some of your calendars, those that are on this calendar hold. I try to, each time I see new folks added, I try to add you to the calendar holds so that you have that option to join us. But we have some, coming up from now to the end of the year, a couple of months that conflict with, for instance, the city to city trip. The October date will be canceled, but in that month we do a candidate forum. And then we also, in December, have now made the GAC that we would normally have in person. We'll be back at Puyallup Nissan for kind of that legislative preview, if you will, which was a great kind of breakfast that we did. And July will be canceled. The first Tuesday is July 5th. And hey, we all, I'm sure, have other things to do the day after 4th of July and enjoying our summer. So you may see just a little bit of movement in August and September to the second Tuesday as well. So just letting you know that's intentional. There's some conflicts, and hope you can still all join us. So hey, thank you, everyone. Always great to see you, and we shall see you next month. No, we won't see you next month. We'll see you in August. Thank you, Captain Massey. Appreciate you being here.